And so what I'm going to do now is, so I had a question from a friend of mine and a longtime viewer, and her question had to do with dealing with tiredness, which is something I'm pretty familiar with. As you can see, I was not born with dark circles under my eyes. So, dealing with tiredness. Okay. How to deal with tiredness. So I'm going to open this up with a brief explanation, or a brief kind of some reflections on my experiences with fatigue and productivity and things of that nature. And that's going to be the general focus of what I talk about here. And what I'll do is I'll try and break down both the attitudes and some practical tools I use to deal with tiredness. Now, tiredness and me have had a very long relationship. I was basically chronically fatigued in high school. So I lived on a small island, and in order to go to high school, I had to take a boat from that small island to another slightly larger island where the high school was. And I had to do that every day, you know, back and forth, like a 45-minute boat ride. My bus to school was a boat. And so that meant my days were extra long. It was a 20-minute bus ride to get to the boat, and it was a 45-minute boat ride to get to school. And you know, there's a lot of people out there, they commute a lot longer than that, so I'm not asking for sympathy, I'm just explaining. So I was chronically tired in high school, and probably I did a lot worse in high school as a result of that. Really the only year that I did quite well was grade 12, because that's when I learned how to study, but anyways. And so that was a common feature. And then when I moved out super early. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17 and moved into a city right away. And again, I was tired and sick all the time, and I didn't really understand why. Then I started working full-time and then trying to do this Android stuff on the side of working full-time, and I was tired all the time. And I would get sick all the time. And fast forward to now, so on the typical day, I wake up at 5:30 a.m. I'll usually study between 7 and 9, and study could be studying code, it could be working on wise-ass stuff. Between 5:30 and 6:30 is like a morning daily maintenance routine, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I'm usually in bed by 10 or 11. So I generally shoot for 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but it's very common for me to do these recordings, these live streams, running off of 4, 5, or 6 hours of sleep. Last night was maybe 7. So I'm pretty familiar with being tired. So how do I deal with tiredness? And let me tell you, I've improved over the years. So, and for certain, why do we want to deal with tiredness? We're developers. There's going to be situations when we just don't have enough time to get adequate sleep. So how can we mitigate the effects of tiredness? Because when we are more tired, our decision-making process goes down. We get upset more easily. We can't think as clearly. For me, when I get really tired, so normally Ryan has like a virtual reality GPU in his head. I even was designing a virtual reality app in my head. But when I'm tired, my GPU turns off, and then Ryan goes from like, oh, this guy might be kind of smart, to like, this guy's a friggin' idiot. So how do we deal with tiredness? All right, so number one. So this is the most important kind of thing, the most important practical tip I can give you is, so establish a daily maintenance, I don't know, I might be misspelling it, maintenance routine. Establish a daily maintenance routine. So what is a daily maintenance routine? And why do we do this? So unfortunately, so here's kind of the first issue. What I find when I get really tired, like really tired, my decision-making process gets very poor, and then I start slacking on things that make me less tired and more healthy. So you have to have certain things you do every day, with maybe one day a year, one day a month as an exception, or you can take maybe one day a week off, but I generally don't take a day off because then I'll lose my momentum. Have a daily maintenance routine. So what does this for me involve? I'm going to explain how I handle daily maintenance. And so in following these principles, that's what allows me to continue to perform at a high level and to reduce my tiredness, my fatigue, and to increase my, one way of saying it is to remove stress from my mind, but we could also say to promote inner peace if you're, you know, into that sort of explanation. But let's just get started with some specifics. Okay, so number one, this is half the thing here. This is half the game. Figure out nutritional deficient. Again, not sure if I'm spelling that. Nutritional deficiencies and metabolic changes. So this might surprise people, and a lot of times people, I'll talk about nutrition and these kinds of things, and people will be like, "What are you, my mom? You know, telling me to eat green vegetables?" And my response to that is, listen, your body. If you imagine your body like an application, and in order for that application to run, it needs certain parameters, it needs certain variables, which we can think of as vitamins and protein and fiber and stuff like that. Imagine running that application with a whole bunch of null values because you haven't been eating properly. Like, imagine running a program except I'm trying to think of how to keep this analogy interesting, but imagine, whatever, let's leave the programming analogy. What I'm trying to say here is, if you're not intaking adequate nutrients, you will probably be tired all the time. I had vitamin D deficiency. Let me talk about some specifics. So, are you eating enough vitamin D in your diet? This is really important for developers because we're in rooms all day. We stay indoors all day. A lot of developers are from countries like me where it's cloudy a lot. So make sure you're not deficient in vitamin D. If you're deficient in vitamin D, you'll probably be tired all the time and you'll get sick all the time. It's literally a causal relationship. So let's talk practical things. So I supplement vitamin D each day, and I eat canned sardines / salmon when I can. So I'll eat the sardines. Now, why do I eat that? They're high in vitamin D and important fats. So this is, I think of the sardines, they don't especially taste very good, but this is like a vitamin supplement I'll eat every day. So just most importantly, make sure your vitamin D isn't screwed up, and try and eat fish. Now, some of you might be vegetarians, so what I would just say, maybe supplement with vitamin D and eat flax. So why am I talking about like nutrition stuff here? The reason why I'm talking about this is like half of the issue with most people. Most people, when they're tired all the time, they think, I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. 50% of it over my many years of trying to not be tired is diet. Make sure you're not deficient in nutrients and you will feel better. So that's the first thing. Watch which foods make you tired. I can't eat carbs or sugar because they screw up my metabolic state. So what does that mean? So this is going to change for you, but if you're eating a lot of sugary foods or very starchy foods every day, that will be screwing with your insulin and blood sugar levels, and that will make you feel tired. So that's kind of a key point. So yeah, I'll move on. So number one, establish a daily maintenance routine, so part of that maintenance routine should be your diet. Let's get to the next part. This is going to be kind of a long-winded talk, but so fix your diet. And this is like, I'd say 50% of the battle is just making sure. So here's the thing. We can't always be rested, but if we eat well, we probably won't get sick, and we'll probably still be able to function pretty well even despite being exhausted. So that's 50% of the battle right there. So the next thing I'll do is, so I'm going to call this one stress management / inner peace. And so so a lot of people, some of the people who are listening understand this stuff maybe through the context of Buddhism or yoga or meditation. If you're not inclined to spiritual stuff, which is pretty much like me, you can think of this as just like having a clear mind or managing your stress. If you want a more spiritual explanation, inner peace, it's all talking about the same thing. And why do we do this? So when you're stressed out, you'll think poorly and generally tend towards bad decisions in health / nutrition. So you want to avoid being stressed out so that you have a good frame of mind to make good decisions. How do you do this really simply? Meditation, yoga, Reiki. What do I do? What's my personal maintenance routine? So every day, so I wake up generally at 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock. For the first hour of my day, the first thing I'll do is I'll generally take a cold shower. I'll start with hot water, then I'll switch to cold water in a shower. And so that, I'm not suggesting everyone does this. This is just me. I like to build willpower by standing under a cold shower and being like, ugh! And that helps me to build, in Buddhism they call it, I think, Khanti, Khanti, which is, I call it patient, another translation is, let's just say building patient endurance. I like that phrase a lot, patient endurance, or willpower. So you want to have things which de-stress you and build patient endurance, whatever, but let's just focus on the stress thing. So every day when you wake up or before you go to bed, have something you do for maybe, if you don't have this in your life yet, start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes meditation, 5 minutes yoga, 5 minutes Reiki. Don't dive into 20 minutes of sitting meditation right off the bat. Otherwise you won't be able to sustain that. Start small. What you'll find is this will help to So when you do these kinds of things, it'll bring your stress level down. So you'll be thinking clearer, and you'll be able to rest during the day. So if you're pretty good at meditating or yoga, let's say you're taking a break at 12 o'clock, or even you're at work, then you can just kind of shut your eyes for a couple minutes. And not really think about anything. And what that'll allow you to do is, it's close to like sleeping. It'll just, you just let it go. So I would say this is maybe 10 to 25%. It depends. So manage your stress, and I know you're into Reiki, so you might already do this, but do something. Yoga is really good if you're a physical person. I personally really like Vipassana meditation or mindfulness meditation because I'm super neurotic. My head is always spinning, I'm always asking questions. I'm always analyzing things. And so meditation is great for me because I sit there and do nothing except watch the breath. Almost done. Couple more. Oops, I just accidentally opened up Spotify. So next one is sleep quality. My number one tip, so this is probably going to be maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15% of the issue. We've all read all kinds of ways to try and improve our sleep quality. And what I'll just say here is my main tip: set a time in the evening when you turn your computer off. Now, if you're in a deadline, if you're working under deadlines, maybe you can't do this. But so what I do is about an hour before my scheduled bedtime, I turn off the computer. If my mind is still racing, I'll listen to audiobooks or I'll read. But the goal there is you don't want that exposure to light from your monitor. That will screw up your sleep real bad. If you turn it off like an hour before, you'll generally fall asleep faster and you'll have a more restful sleep, even if it's shorter. So that's my main tip for improving sleep quality. We can't improve sleep quantity, but we can improve its quality simply by doing that. A couple more here. So next thing is, so this is the last kind of micro point here. So schedule time during most days where you deliberately do nothing, don't do work. This doesn't need to be a lot of time, but so here's the thing. What I find is that on my most productive days, on rare occasion I'll have a day, say, where I wake up at 5:30 and from 6:30 to 9 I'm studying. I eat breakfast from 9:30 to 2. I'm studying. I eat lunch from 2 to 2:30 to 6. I'm still studying. And it's great when you can do that, but what'll happen is your mind gets so stressed out. It'll be like, oh, I got to do something. And so I'll do like a ton of work, but I'll still be stressed out. I'll be like, I can't stop working. I've learned to watch for that. And when I'm in that state where, hey, I've already done a great job today, I've already kicked ass, I've already done a ton of work, calm down. At the end of the day, I've got 2 hours where I'm just gonna maybe watch YouTube videos, play a bit of video games, not get carried away, but deliberately take some time off. And what'll happen is my brain will keep saying to me, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this. And I'll just sit there and do something useless. And each time that thought pops into my head, I'll just be like, actually, no, I had a really great productive day. And This is not leisure time. This is forced relaxation time. You are not allowed to think about work right now. And you would think that that would be a negative thing, but I find when you take a break from that stuff, it'll help you to not get burnt out. I've been rambling forever. Let's wrap this up. So a couple more things. Take a 10 to 20 minute power nap. This is really key. Lie down on your bed, close your eyes, let your mind think about, set a timer, definitely set a timer, and just let your mind go. If your mind is restless, let it do that. If your mind is, and eventually you'll calm down. If your mind is tired, just relax. Try to just relax and drop the tension in that 20 minutes. And then once the timer is up, get up and go back to work. And that for me works really well when I'm like next level exhausted. That's basically it. I think there was one more point I wanted to get at, and then I will shut the hell up because I've been rambling like crazy. This is, oh, okay. All right, let's save the best for last. So the last thing I'll talk about is, let's say you wake up on a given day, you're exhausted for whatever reason, you're exhausted and you need your brain to work. You need a sharp mind and you don't know how to do this or how to get that going. This is hard mode. I call this hard mode because this is what I do when my personal comfort needs to be sacrificed for some goal I have. So I'm not saying do this every day, but this is what I do when I really need my brain to work and I need to not feel tired. Hard mode. Okay. On a day you really need to be rested, fast until you've done the important tasks. This is kind of a weird one for people. What do I mean by fast? I mean don't eat food. You can have water, you can have tea, and you can have coffee. Don't eat food. Why? What I have observed, and this is something which has been observed by many people, and this is also why I eat a low-carb diet. When your body is in a fasted state, for whatever reason, probably because it starts to jumpstart ketones, you can look into ketones if you want some of the science behind this. Your brain will start to function better and you almost go into like survival mode. And so there was the best interview I ever did at a programming company. I was in a fasted state and meditated and fasted. Why is this powerful? I kind of call this the Buddha's secret weapon. Fasting and waiting. What you'll find is, so when you wake up on a given day and you really need your brain to work, don't eat. I'll have coffee. Why? And you can eat, you can put off eating until like 2 o'clock or whenever you finish the important task. I'm just gonna say you have to try this. It works really well. You will be surprised how your IQ goes up. You will be smarter. Now, how do you deal with the pain of hunger? Because obviously you'll be hungry. When you become hungry, you can have tea or coffee and that'll suppress your appetite. You can have water with salt in it, is really useful. But most importantly, don't eat a main meal. And when you push through the hunger, you'll find you'll have like a wave of hunger. Like your body's like, you need to eat. let that go. It's temporary. Maybe for 45 minutes you have intense hunger pains, whatever, ignore it. Patient endurance. Maybe that'll happen again a little while later, but it's short-lived. Maybe 30 or 45 minutes, 20 minutes you feel hungry. After that state, all of a sudden things just get clear in your head. Your brain just, all the complaints just calm down. All the stress just kind of falls off, and then all of a sudden you're just very one-pointedness. And so what I'm trying to say is fasting is my secret technique to make my brain work really, really well, even when I'm tired as hell. That rhymed. I should be a rapper. MC Kalis the Tabaknak. And that's it. So what I'm going to do is I'll just open up, I'll just have a look at the comments and questions and stuff like that, and then we'll call it a day. But so I realized that was a really long and rambly thing, but I had a question from a friend and I wanted to share my insight and experience, and hopefully that was useful for other people.